and welcome to the AIBC Summit. Today I am here with Michaela Lallouz. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, no, you got it.
Oh, fantastic. From Web3 space. Today we're going to be talking about what's happening in the world of blockchain and giving Michaela's insights into the space. Now, Michaela, you have been in the space for quite a while. I mean, I saw your resurgence on, especially on LinkedIn. Is that your biggest community?
Actually, my biggest community, and I think the biggest community in the whole Web3 NFT space is on Twitter.
Oh, on Twitter,
my
okay.
biggest platform is Twitter, but as actually the wise Gary Vee says to, if an app is free, put all the content on all the apps. So I am on TikTok and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And
get those boomers in there.
Yeah, no, everybody actually they just introduced Reels on
Okay,
Facebook.
yeah.
So that was actually Gary's advice. Just yesterday, he posted. He's like, "You guys need to get on Reels." So I am everywhere. It's exciting actually to see how popular now the Web3 space is on LinkedIn because I thought that they were a little bit behind. I know I'm trying to sell a lot of LinkedIn folks right now, but they're actually now kind of catching up to NFT Twitter, crypto Twitter, because that's always been like the main platform. So that is.
Yeah, no, I do agree on that in the sense Twitter has always been sort of more focused on especially the NFT space.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the anonymity that Twitter sort of offers, whereas LinkedIn doesn't offer you that sort of thing. You really have to put your face behind it. But what we've seen is people in business have now started understanding that. Now, being an early OG in the NFT space, moving into what's now more serious business, what developments have you seen from a blockchain, businesses getting involved in it? Right now, is it still a gimmick for them, or do you think they're finding value in NFTs and Web3?
I think that big question,
I know.
like huge question. So we can go deep. I have obviously levels to the answer.
Okay.
So first, I don't think. Okay, so when you look at all the media from when the internet was created, what did it say? It said it was a fad.
Yeah.
It said that this is going to be completely blown over. Where are we now? We're completely immersed into the web. So definitely not a fad. Not scam or anything like that.
No. Okay.
Or what was the word that you used?
Is it a gimmick? Are they
Yes.
are businesses using it as a gimmick still, or have they found
so I guess
use?
using it as a buzzword to market their stuff. I mean, obviously, look, in every industry, you're going to have companies that are just wanting to make a quick buck, but there are actual real companies innovating on how to enhance their relationship with their community. So there's obviously different levels to the Web3 space. Like it's kind of like saying, with Web2 you had all the apps, you have the Facebook and the Instagram, Twitter, etc. And here it's like the same thing. It's the next phase of the internet. So everybody is welcome to participate in the Web3 space, and there is all of these talents and passions and jobs are needed and some. So there's obviously a lot of exciting things. One really exciting company that I am pretty close to is OD Labs, and they do gamification of IP. And I think that that's like the future of Web3. It's really, really interesting. Gamification of IP.
You're speaking to someone who's been talking about games and tokens and Web3 since 2018.
Okay, so maybe preaching to the choir.
Yeah, you are preaching to the choir here. Gamification is key, and what they're doing is fantastic because once the brands can understand where they can sort of play with their audiences and they can engage their audiences, those audiences become so much more loyal. So that's fantastic.
And authentically as well.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. I think a big issue is that a lot of big Web2 companies come into the Web3 space and they're not doing it authentically. They're kind of getting advisory from, maybe somebody on LinkedIn saying that they're an expert because they bought, a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT and I don't know when, right? And I see it, and it pains me because I'm like, wow, this is a huge company. You can do so much because you have such a big advantage coming into the space. You can really like change the game,
of course.
But I see them get this bad advisory. But I think, again, something to really focus on, gamification of IP, augmented reality, which kind of goes with that whole thing. And now we see that with, Meta releasing the augmented reality glasses, where you're going to basically be able to answer a text with the flick of the wrist, and Apple as well. And it's very exciting.
Are we moving beyond talking about the technology and now starting to talk about the features? So rather than saying, this is an NFT saying, oh, this is going to give you access to this entire community of things. So dropping out that technology side and just literally saying, this is what it does. We don't care what it happens underneath.
I think someone that did that, like a company that did that, is Reddit, where
Okay.
they onboarded 50 million users and people didn't even know they were interacting with NFTs.
Yep.
They called them digital collectibles. However, I want people to understand that Web3 encompasses a lot of different things, right? And there are digital collectibles, but there are different things under Web3. Like it's not just NFTs, you know? So yes, those are digital collectibles, but then you have NFT technology, which is like provenance, you know, it could be used for artists and provenance and stuff like that. So I think maybe hopefully this answers your question that going forward, we want people to have a better, I guess, user experience where we don't want them really to know that they're interacting with technology, you know, like
Yes.
like advanced technology,
Yep.
you know. So hopefully in the future, like it'll be as easy as just kind of interacting with your iPhone, and like you don't know everything that iOS does, you know,
Yes.
or the music with the MP3 files. Like we don't really know about the files, and that's how for a long time NFTs have been explained, which is like, you know, at smart contract technology and all of this stuff, and like it's very interesting, but a lot of people don't really care about that. So I think we're shifting the focal point
Oh, that I agree, and I
for
think,
mass adoption.
and this I think we've seen this point already. There wasn't there a very famous car brand launching a campaign,
Porsche.
yeah, Porsche, launching it not too long ago and failed miserably.
Yeah.
And it was because it was all about look at what we have. We have this buzzword rather than looking at what this can do. And that, in fact, that's where they failed. They failed on the sort of feature set and engaging the community. Because I mean, that could have been I know everybody in the
They could
space
have
had
done
an
like
opinion.
use to earn or something, like something interesting along those lines. No, I know everybody has an opinion, but honestly, the stats are that when these big celebrities or Web2 companies come into the Web3 space and they try to pivot their business, it's like what happens? You see these like small brands coming into the Web3 space and they make a killing. Millions of dollars overnight, and people are like, how is this happening? And then you have, you know, someone like Chris Brown, who's a world-renowned, you know, celebrity. They launch an NFT and it's just like,
Does
no,
nothing.
but maybe like 30 sold.
Okay.
You know, or
Wow.
our company, yeah, like around 30 sold. No exaggeration. And then you have a company like Porsche, and yeah, they weren't as successful because I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier is authenticity. It's
Okay.
like using this technology in an authentic way. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you are launching something, look, not everything has to be an NFT. It doesn't mean that we're not pivoting into the Web3, you know, the next phase of the internet, but not every single company has to utilize NFTs. There's different aspects, you know, that they can touch on.
To the entire space, and again, they can use tokens, they can use loyalty
Yes.
rewards, and
Yeah,
all
and
these.
really play with the tokenomics. But for that, you need, you know, people that really know what they're doing. And right now, I do find them on Twitter. You
Yeah.
know, it's not that I don't find them on LinkedIn, but they really are kind of, you know, in the Discords, in the Twitter, like on Twitter Spaces, and that's kind of where I spend majority of my time and why that's my biggest platform is because I don't know why, but still to this day, and maybe you mentioned it with the, you know, being anonymous on there, like that's where everybody is who can really build and are pretty much considered experts, in my opinion.
Now I'm going to give you a tough question. I'm starting a project tomorrow, and I have a great brand. We do have a community, but do I start focusing on my community, or do I look for the NFT Web3 natives? Where do I go?
Good question. I think a lot of people forget about their actual existing community. And I think that's what Porsche did. You know, I feel like they barely marketed it to their existing community. And many companies do this where they try to go straight to the NFT community and they completely forget about their existing community. So definitely there's a way to, you know, incorporate both, but definitely pay attention to both. Don't just go straight to NFTs and be like, oh no, there's no point in talking to my existing community, you know, so.
Okay, next question. And it is a wild question. Price or value? Do you see the two of them as two different things in NFTs?
Like, how do you
Okay,
figure?
so a high price can mean, I mean, something selling at a high price can mean something. But which is more important, a high price or a high value to the NFT?
So the price is interesting in the NFT space because it's almost like the community sets the price. So you can see something, like I could set a floor price myself of 100 Ethereum. Unless somebody sets it low, or like, so it's the community that determines the price.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's honestly not about the utility. Like I've seen projects, unfortunately, with great utility, but that have a low floor price.
Okay.
So,
But do they get used? That's the next question. Are people utilizing utility in them, or are we still just in a sort of let's collect as many as we can?
usually if there's a high floor price of something, there's a reason for it, you know? When in regards to utility, to each their own. There's a lot of people that think, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which, I was like an early member of, I minted it maybe like the next day, that people could say, oh, the utility of having the IP of the apes, useless to me. I don't care about that. But then to other people are like, oh, I just created a huge, Bored and Hungry, like a food brand, like to each their own. So that's the thing about NFTs also, like as we are growing the NFT space, there's gonna be something for everybody. So like I could say, oh, the IP or having some utility of like a big gaming company doesn't interest me, but it interests my friend who's a gamer, or a fashion brand, like if a fashion brand is coming into the NFT space, like that could be utility to me. But or music, let's say I get to own the royalties of one of my favorite artists, maybe that's interesting to me and not interesting to somebody else.
Okay. So you mentioned fashion, you mentioned IP, and we just had that whole case with Birkin. Hermes and Birkin that just came out. I mean, was that a bad case of using NFTs and other people's IP? I mean, do people need to be respectful when it comes down to that?
Yeah, I definitely think I don't like copycats. I'm all for originality, and that's why every project that's successful in the NFT space has some form of being original. So it's not one size fits all in this space. And that's another thing. Like if let's say you were coming to me and you're saying, Michaela, how do I launch, my NFT project? I would say be original. That's something, don't look, a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm gonna launch a project, I'm gonna have 10,000 in the collection. I'm gonna call it Bored Ape Grandma Club. And I'm like, what? You're a bunch of dudes, why would you do that, right? So they see and they want to copy, but when you're original and innovative in this space, you become very successful. When you're the first of it. I mean, look at CryptoPunks, right? One of the first, I guess, generative projects, right? Generative art projects, they have so much value because they are the first, and then you have Bored Ape Yacht Club, the first really to gain this, mass adoption and popularity. When you're the first of something and you do it really well, of course, obviously, then yeah.
All right. Now tell me a little bit more about Web3 space. So what are you guys doing there?
So I'm just Michaela. It's my company, CEO of my company. I do a lot of advisory and consulting and kind of answering these questions, like you're asking me right now, content creation and again, everyday content creation. I'll stream on Twitter Spaces, which is the most popping place right now for the Web3 space, 6 hours a day,
That's actually very interesting because just a couple of seconds ago you were telling about being first in the space. Now the Twitter Spaces was actually a follow-up.
Yeah, from Clubhouse.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that sometimes bigger brands can jump in and do their thing. In fact, I think they found their niche. It was NFTs that actually had pushed forward the Twitter Spaces.
Well, neither of them are actually Web3 companies. Clubhouse is just a Web2 company. Twitter is definitely a Web2 company. We have yet to see a good Web3 social platform. I think that gets a little scary because then when you think about Web3, you're like, okay, decentralization, how does that work? And all of those things. And I don't know if we're ready for it just yet.
Does Web3 need to be totally decentralized?
No. There's definitely aspects to it.
There's room for centralization and decentralization to coexist.
Of course, yeah.
When it comes down to
definitely.
it. No, that's in fact I was reading some news today regarding Instagram just announcing that they're killing all the features. I actually didn't even know they rolled them out at all. And it's interesting to see how they're closing them down. How do you think this is going to affect the NFT space? A friend of mine was saying, is this the end?
No, it's not the end because I'll be very honest right now. Nobody from the NFT space was really using the NFT integration on Instagram. Who has been in the space now, I don't know, 10 years in metaverse years, so quite some time. really never used the Instagram NFT feature.
Yeah, I literally did not know that it
Yeah.
existed, and it's sometimes when a
I
brand.
mean, I knew someone in the space had a really successful launch when they I think, but I only know of one person that launched on there.
But
it's
I think they only gave a couple of creators the opportunity
Yeah.
to do so
Yeah.
as well, and it didn't roll out. And anyway,
But
everybody.
Meta is literally what we're talking about when moving from Web2 companies to the Web3 space, so them taking it away does not affect us at all whatsoever.
All right. And how are you thinking about AIBC Eurasia? How's the summit going for you so far?
Really great. I did a panel earlier about Web3 solutions, and it was really interesting to hear about what everybody's saying. I love IRL events, in real life events, because you see how many people are interested. You meet, you have that in real life connection. It's obviously different than Twitter Spaces,
Yeah.
So having a little bit of both is fantastic. I get to meet people like you. So I think this was the highlight of it so far.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, wow.
I like chatting with you. It's fun.
No, fantastic. Michaela, thank you very much for joining us here at the AIBC Summit. And we will be back with more amazing interviews and amazing folks from the Web3 space here on AIBC.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela.